Let's be clear, this is the throne of the cheap Class D amps. Throughout my listening over the years, I would still strongly recommend a quality AB amp for your final, it's the end, hi-fi system. Do not think yet that Class D amps can be your end-all, be-all amp. But what these two companies are producing at under $300 is honestly transformative to the audio community, and they should be commended. They've taken cheap TI chips that 5 years ago sounded like something suited for your garage, at best, to the point today where they are only lacking in 4 areas. Unbridled power, like 500 watts that can power the toughest to drive speakers in very large venues. Just a bit of dynamics and heat dissipation. These things get hot if pushed for very long periods of time. But for 95% of those watching, I doubt you will need more power. I doubt you will hear the difference in dynamics, and I doubt you'll have to deal with the heat issue. Oh, and they aren't perfectly flat from 20 to 20,000, but again, I doubt most people will ever hear that either. I would further argue if you hid these amps from view and had a big, beefy Macintosh amp powered on, 99.9% of the people who came to your home to listen wouldn't know that Mac wasn't actually being used, because you need to critically listen to hear the differences between these cheap chip amps and high-end AB amps. I'm telling you, they've come a long way, and they're pretty damn good. But is there a clear winner between the Aiyima and the Fosi? Who will take the throne? Follow me for the rest of the coronation process. There are similarities between the two. We are now getting balanced inputs, and not only is this a welcome addition, but hopefully this pushes the better known brands to start including them on their lower cost amps and integrated amps. Both use external power supplies, which is not a positive, but if you crave a small form factor and don't mind a power brick sitting on the floor, then I guess it works for you. And both are using new designs that make them essentially flat, regardless of load. Still, the Fosi is clearly the heavyweight here, promising 240 watts into 4 ohms versus Ayima's 180. Heavily favored in Vegas to win the fight for power, our Aiyima A70 has a couple tricks up its sleeve that it hopes will give it the keys to the kingdom, at least the keys in your system. For one, it is in a single chassis, saving space on our coveted desktop. Didn't you just say you wanted that brick power supply because you wanted the small form factor? For two, it has a volume knob. It can be used without a preamp of some kind. Just plug and go. And because it's a preamp, it has a subwoofer output, and not just a dumb preset subwoofer output, one with a variable frequency response from 150 to 600 hertz. I would have preferred that to go down to 80. And to top it all off, it has a true trigger input, where the Fosi can only be controlled via an auto trigger, and with it comes a delay when the amp powers up. All this for $199, an $80 discount over buying 2 Fosi V3 monos. This, after all, is going to be a match. I got my Bish on and began my 600 hours of listening. This Aiyima sounded good. Bass was deep as Bish pummeled the Aiyima with one 16-foot pipe, followed by another, then a 20-footer, and then back to an 18. Sitting a meter away with the AE320 speakers, I was speechless. Aiyima sounded every bit as good as the Fosi, but had it improved its dynamics as the Fosi did. I needed to listen to the Bish tune that had a staggering 14 decibel range. Right across the river from her groundbreaking Brothers in Arms album, we were going to hear if the A70 could go quiet to loud, and then approaching godlike loudness with the dynamics this song demands. I was literally dumbfounded. I couldn't hear a difference between the two amplifiers. Had I lost my golden hearing? I couldn't hear a difference. I went into a deep depression. For weeks, I sat around the house doing nothing but push-ups, sit-ups, cardio weights while listening to Bish. Why couldn't I hear a difference between these two level-matched amps? It didn't make sense. until Helmholtz here reminded me they use the same exact amplification chip. I sprang to my feet after my 500th sit-up, that is. Helmholtz, I said, you're a genius. And if you're right, a microphone won't be able to hear the difference either. It was time to measure this song. So from 3.5 meters away, I level matched the two using a 1 kilohertz test tone. Then I hooked up my calibrated mic and played the song while logging it in its entirety using Rue's SPL logger. Once done, it was time to look and see what this Fosi looked like. We see the massive transients in the song and how it builds in the beginning. It was now time for the moment of truth. Overlaying the Aiyima measurements on top of the Fosi. My hands were sweating. My pulse was racing. The birds in the trees had stopped singing, their mouths agape like Joe Biden, as I overlaid the Aiyima measurements. Hallelujah! Level matched. These two amps are near identical. But these two amps aren't level. The Fosi can play louder, about 3 dB louder, which is like twice the wattage louder. More so than you would think based on its specs. In my pink noise test, the Fosi could get 3 dB louder than the Aiyima, probably because the TI chip is being powered by a separate 5 amp power supply as opposed to the singular 5 amp power supply on the Aiyima. That's a big difference, requiring twice the wattage to produce the difference. It could also be that the Fosi has extra gain built in. I'll leave the speculating to others, but the fact is the Fosi is at a level above the Aiyima in sheer power. And it's hard not to crave more power. Our contender fought hard. It has features the Fosi does not, and quite a few of them. So we start off with a 2011 Michel Gay French Burgundy, and we pair it with the king of putting a lot onto the one dish, a shrimp chicken and sausage jambalaya, an absolute taste bud treat. And the king of cheap chip amps is 286 AD. Thank you for what? Are you calling my viewers stupid? Fine. 286 AD Roman Empire. And what? Seriously? They can't be that stupid. Fine for the 1%, but it really ruins the ending of this video. It was going to be 286 AD, then just fade to black as I walked out. It could have gone down in cinematic history with Hitchcock's Citizen Kane, 286 AD. But since the ending of this video is already ruined, and no one is going to hit the subscribe button now, thank you, Helmholtz, I'll just say it. In 286 AD, the Roman Empire was split into two, with two rulers, one in the east and one in the west. Therefore, the Aiyima and the Fosi are both kings of the chip amps. It depends on what you want. On the east, you have features. You have subwoofer output. You have basically a preamp. On the west, you've got extra power. Zero crosstalk, because they're monoblocks. I mean, there's going to be zero crosstalk, but you got it. So it's your choice. There you go. Just a quick FYI, members get dedicated videos which will never be available to the general public, and I mean never. So subscribe if you want to be informed when our next video drops, but become a member if you want videos that will include everything from audio discussions with Helmholtz, behind the scene videos, crazy stuff I do when sober, and other things. Thanks for watching this video.